So I'm with Neil Baker, who's the senior pastor of the Baptist Tab and Centre of Auckland City. And I just want to say thank you for being willing to share this time to discuss the impact of COVID-19 on your church. Thanks for letting me record the interview.
Fine.
So Neil, how would you describe your church family?
We describe the Auckland Baptist Tabernacle, which we call just the Tabernacle really most of the time, as a multicultural, multi-congregational faith community that's primarily located in the heart of Auckland City, in the top of Queen Street. We obviously are not meeting at this stage like many others, but we're meeting right across the city in different ways. So we're made up of effectively 5 congregations that are part of the Tabernacle. We have other congregations that use our facility, but 5 that are part of who we are as a church ministry. So probably just to help clarify those 5, one congregation is called All Nations. So again, very multicultural, but it's an English speaking with a high level of competency of English. That's one separate congregation, and each congregation has its own pastor, its own leadership team, and its own unique way of doing ministry in their context, but all part of the whole, linked together by core distinctives and values that we hold together. The second congregation is called Global, and again, very multicultural in its name, and that's primarily an easy English-speaking congregation, so it's made up of lots of internationals. It started out as a ministry to students who were coming to New Zealand to learn predominantly English actually, and do other kinds of studies as well. And it's grown from that base back in the early 2000s to now being a church of all ages and stages. Lots of families, lots of those students have stayed on and grown and married and so on. So but it's primarily still pitched for internationals and whose competency of English is at a simple level, easy English level. So that's a really wonderful ministry, very interactive, very community-based. We have another congregation called our Mandarin service, which is a Chinese congregation, Mandarin speaking, but made up of Chinese from all over, the world that have come to New Zealand, and that has its own context as well. We have another congregation called Friends of Friends, which is part of the Our Neighbours network. So that reaches out to Muslim background peoples. So they're the 4 on-site communities or congregations at the Tabernacle, and then we have another one that was a church plant that was started about 4 years ago or so, that's called Living Waters, that meets in Balmoral. So they are the 5 congregations. Balmoral, Living Waters is very much running autonomously, but the other 4 congregations, while they're distinct, are very connected and linked together as part of the whole. So that's us.
It's quite complex.
Yeah, and really intriguing and interesting at the same time.
So bearing all that in mind, when we went into the lockdown, so 5 weeks ago now, what was the biggest challenge you faced?
Well, the biggest challenge was how we would connect with our communities online, and what online platforms would we utilize. We'd already been using a number of platforms, things like WeChat and Facebook and so on. It had streamed some of our services. And in fact, one of our services had started streaming before the lockdown. So we were streaming exactly what was going on in the recording of that service. But obviously we now needed to bring all of our congregations up to speed and using one central kind of mechanism. And so we all agreed that we would use YouTube Live, so which has been a great platform actually. So we're still live streaming 3 of our services, and when I say live streaming, they're streamed at that time. They would normally happen each Sunday, and they're a mixture of either fully live and recorded. So that was the first challenge for us, was to get all of our congregations working on the same platform. And of course, it's one thing to stream from an auditorium where you have that set up there. It's another thing to actually put those services together in lockdown from our homes. So that was quite a learning curve to use YouTube Live, and particularly what's called OBS, or Open Broadcasting Software, which is what we've been using to create the transitions in our services, to overlay PowerPoint and song and other images and so on. So it was a week or two before we really got up to speed on how to use that. I've been monitoring our service, all of our services every week, and I've been really encouraged by both the, the engagement, the authenticity, the use of that online platform, and it's been a really encouraging kind of forum for our church members as well. So that was our initial challenge, and I think we've done well as a result.
Excellent. So as we've gone through this lockdown process, what have been the most important things for you to focus on with your church?
Well, one of the important things, I think very important, was not just around what happened on Sunday, but actually what happens, the community, the engagement of our members midweek. So how do we do that? And so that was part of our initial conversation. How would each congregation go about continuing things like small groups online, pre-meetings online? How would we contact those members of our community that were most vulnerable, our seniors, those who might be impacted by the loss of a job or the financial downturn? So we all discussed how we would do that, and each congregation has done that slightly differently. Some in terms of the midweek kind of thing has really been the focus there. Some of our pastors have made a commitment to ring every member within their congregation, or those leadership teams ringing every member within the congregation. Some are doing daily devotions for people to follow. Some are doing weekly updates with resources for people to link into for either emotional health or spiritual well-being, topics of interest. Yeah, and just that contacting of people and encouraging people to keep that connection in their friendship groups. We call them whānau groups or small groups. So that's been positive as well to see that. And that was probably one of the important things we did, not just Sunday, but just how we would keep connection. So we're now looking at how we're doing some of our courses, and we've started doing some online courses, and we'll be continuing to develop that further. So yeah, that's been a key part. Another part that was really important right from the start, and we had this conversation literally in the day after the government announced the level 4 lockdown. We met together as a team and worked out some protocols of how we would support people. And we gave all of our pastors a contingency fund to help members within each congregation who would be directly impacted by the lockdown. So again, people who had lost jobs, people who were struggling financially. And so we had a contingency fund we can draw from to get food parcels and some of that kind of thing. So that was a really important thing to put in place right at the start of lockdown. The other thing we did was move all of our staff meetings to a weekly forum. So we're using Zoom. I think Zoom has become a go-to for all of us in terms of online meetings. And so, yeah, that's been a really important place for our staff team. So all of our pastors, our central team, our other congregational core leaders to join into this one meeting and to catch up, to share our stories, to kind of be on the same page as to what's going on. And yeah, that's been a really rich and really significant time for us. The other thing which was really important, and I'm sure many churches have done the same, is look at their health and safety kind of plans, contingencies around financial management, for us, facility management and all that, because we've had folks from the street have been living at the front of the tabernacle through the lockdown, not officially, but unofficially, and so how do we manage that? So, there's just all those kind of practical things outside of Sunday, outside of connection midweek, just to make sure those things were running well. So that's been the most important stuff we focused on.
And that's more than a handful in itself.
Yeah.
So it may be that New Zealand won't be able to return to 2019 normal within 12, 18 months. What impact do you think this will have on how you do church and how you understand the mission of your church?
Yeah, really important question. Our vision statement is this: together in the heart of the city, expressing God's heart for the nations. Well, we can't obviously be together in the heart of the city, and I'm doubtful we're actually going to be able to do so, at least for weeks, if not for months. I think one of the longer term or midterm implications for us I think that even when we're able to meet together, whether that be in lockdown level 2 or not, and there may be limits to how many people can meet together at one time, I think a lot of our people, particularly our seniors and some of our vulnerable people in terms of health, some of our ethnic groups who are really sensitive about their well-being and health, they won't be coming back to gatherings of people on site for quite some time. That for us means that online streaming of our services, regardless if they're recorded from our homes or actually recorded directly of a service at the auditorium in the top of Queen Street, that's going to be our way forward. We've said that streaming is going to be an important strategy for us from here on through. And I think it's an exciting strategy because we've noted that, as other churches have, that a lot of other people have connected into our services. People just checking it out from our local communities, friends, family members. We've had people nationally and internationally. In fact, quite a lot of people internationally have connected to our services. Missionaries that were supporting and communities that were supporting overseas, and even some other churches that have decided to link into what we're doing. So we think there's a strategy here for us to do something more online with a bigger reach. And I think we'll be developing that further. So regardless of when we move back on site, we'll continue streaming. The other thing which I think we have to come to terms with is the pastoral connection and community connection. What we've started in terms of our forums online midweek, I think these are again going to be ongoing kind of opportunities and very important to develop further. In that, I think many courses now, I think we'll be doing courses online. We're looking at what we can roll out in that regard. So I think this is going to be an opportunity for people to do some more online training, whether it be through us as a church or through places like some Bible colleges, other places where people can now readily access, because now they've been introduced to it, they'll be able to readily access some of this material. So I think there's going to be an upturn in people developing and training online. So that's what we'll be kind of looking at how we develop. Right now, we're in a conversation with our own staff team, and really what we're asking the question is this: what are the opportunities we see ahead? There's a lot of stuff we don't know, but we're starting to get some ideas and thoughts and some seed concepts of things that we want to do, both in the inner city, that might be new strategies for us, as well as things that we haven't considered in the past. So we're still in that process of working that out, and I'm excited about what that will afford to us and how we can lead into that. Yeah, but those are just some of the things I think, again, the online training and the connectiveness and the streaming that will continue as part of our normal process going forward.
So that focuses on the how to do church. What about the mission of the church?
Yeah, so that's something we're going to continue to work out. I mean, we're in, what did you say, 5 weeks. So we'll have to consider what this means for us, because I think for us, part of our mission is in the inner city. While we have people coming from all across Auckland as an inner city church, we have a central focus around the inner city and central suburbs. So we'll be looking at how our ministry together in the heart of the city takes a new form. And already that's starting to look at how we might be able to assist people, individuals, families in that regard. So I think the mission for us will move more at a practical level of support to people. I think that's going to be very important given New Zealand's situation, our economy. So there'll be more a practical expression, an opportunity for us to engage within our context where we believe God's called us to be and to focus our attention. I suppose in reality, Bruce, there's still a lot of unknowns, and so I think we're going to have to be adaptive to the opportunities that do emerge, and I think that's still in a process of becoming clear.
Yeah. So a word you've used a lot is opportunity. Would it be fair to say that you're hopeful for the future?
Yeah, look, I am. I think that this hasn't caught God by surprise, although I'm sure he grieves at what this the impact of COVID-19 has had upon our communities and indeed on our world. But I think anytime there's a challenge like this, it becomes an opportunity for us to, I think for a lot of people, there'll be a reflecting on their own lives and values through lockdown. I think that's happened to a degree. I think subject to what happens going forward with our economy and what happens with COVID-19, I think there will be an opportunity that will come to people to consider their own lives and their values and where they're at in relation to God. So I think there's an evangelistic mission opportunity. I think God is at work by his Spirit in that regard, and I clearly have that view that the God of mission has a church in the world, but God is already working in our world, and he's working by his Spirit and touching and drawing people. And we have that opportunity to catch up and be a part of what he is doing. So I do think there will be positive things that will come out of this for the mission of the church. There will be challenges, financial challenges. There will be, for some churches, they may not be able to continue as they are based on things. So for some churches, this is going to be very challenging. But I think for the church as a whole, not just our church, I think there are great opportunities for mission, discipleship, engagement, moving us beyond the four walls of a church and thinking that's what ministry mission is, to being a people who are the diaspora, people who are dispersed in community. And if we look at the book of Acts, that's how the gospel went to the known world, wasn't it? It was through the diaspora, through people going. And so we're forced in that regard to go into our communities, our bubbles, and that's going to be a new place of engagement for all of us. So I think part of the engagement is not just about what we do in our centres, but the recruiting and the equipping of people to be being and doing in our locations. So that's about releasing people to be the people of God in community.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for sharing these thoughts. I really appreciate that. And I wish you well as you identify these opportunities and work to make the most of them.
Thanks, Bruce. We'll certainly be open to how God leads us all.
Great.